This, as you may recognize, is a maintenance service elevator, still in operation, waiting for you. We invite you, if you dare, to step aboard because in tonight's episode, you are the star, and this elevator travels directly to the Twilight Zone.
Walt Disney World's third park has always been, in some way, shape, or form, in constant change. Whether it was the late 80s, early 90s, when it was turning from a studio backlot and production facility and theme park into more theme park with minimal backlot, to backlot with kind of a mini production studio, but more of a showcase of how to do it with mostly theme park, to now just being a celebration of the movies, this park is definitely not the park a lot of us remember from our first visits. And for some others, sometime in the future, I'm sure we'll think the same thing. Our day at Hollywood Studios started with a very different kind of morning.
Tonight's story on the Twilight Zone is somewhat unique and calls for a different kind of introduction
Than planned. Half of us went to the park, and the rest took care of some things and would meet us eventually in the park. We started off on Sunset Boulevard with Rockin' Roller Coaster starring Aerosmith. Still a great ride, with an awesome soundtrack. For an older Vekoma, it's got a little bit of jank, but nothing to ruin the experience or induce serious headbanging, at least in my case. Layout's decent, the 3 inversions are great, and I love the physical props and sets in this thing. Going through the giant O in the Hollywood sign, the huge donut, the traffic signs, blaring to some great Aerosmith music, it's really a very much so a win-win coaster. When we were getting off, a cast member asked if we wanted to go again, and none of us hesitated. We all happily said yes, so we went around for another lap. This ride's launch is quite intense, and definitely is a throw you in the back of your seat kind of launch. While at this end of the park, we entered the Twilight Zone on the Tower of Terror. I don't know what it is about this drop tower, but it's my favorite. Maybe it's because of the story and theming, or, most likely, the simple seatbelt and a crap ton of airtime this sucker delivers. And so much better than any other drop tower. I hope Disney keeps this one the way it is for all time. You already messed with California's, you're probably going to mess with Paris's, and Tokyo's is its own beast. Keep Florida's alone. At this point, the rest of our party met up with us, and we went to go meet some Star Wars characters in the launch bay. I mainly wanted to meet Darth Vader. It was cool, and I liked it better than meeting Kylo Ren. From there, it was time to let the little ones have some fun. We were off to Andy's backyard in Toy Story Land, and the Toy Story Mania ride. This interactive shooting ride allows you to play carnival games with your Pixar pals. Probably the better of the 2 shooting rides at Walt Disney World. I personally can get a really high score on this, so I might be a little bit biased. Fun fact, it's also available for you retro gamers on the Wii. Yes, they literally made a copy and paste of the games for Wii. It's not really a secret. Afterwards, we picked up a mobile order we put in at Woody's Lunchbox. I had a very delicious brisket grilled cheese sandwich with an adult drink. It had cherry and I want to say it was like a cherry lemonade. I can't remember, but it tasted really good. Of course, the headliner ride in this area is Slinky Dog Dash, a good family coaster. I've been on this a few times. I've had some rides that were a little bit more thrilling than others. Some were more on the mild side. Which, if this is truly a family coaster, which it is, it makes sense that I feel this way. I'm sure others do too. I do recall some rides in the past where I've gotten airtime. This time, not quite so much. And it wasn't really anything crazy. It was like a woo! Kind of, I don't know. It's one of those I guess you have to do it to understand. This was probably the hottest day of our trip. And this was the most packed park we had encountered. We were due for an off day. But from this point, studios seem to have the most inconsistent rules and procedures I've ever seen at Disney. And here's how. We had a sleeping baby in a stroller and went in line to go meet Olaf. We entered the line and no one said a thing. We get to the door from the outside queue to the inside and we were told we can't bring the stroller in. We were a tad annoyed because the other people were allowed to bring in strollers, but we were turned away. We later found out you needed a sticker or tag of some kind to be allowed in with them, which is fine. But 3 people at the front entrance didn't say a word. At least be upfront about it. That's all. Later on, we moved to Rise of the Resistance. This is probably one of the greatest theme park rides ever built, especially when it works right. As a Star Wars fan, the attention to detail is unmatched. It really feels like you've entered a true Star Wars adventure in trying to escape a Star Destroyer. In this ride, you join the Resistance to fight the First Order. You end up getting captured by the First Order, sentenced into prison cells before being whisked away into transports by some undercover Resistance allies. From there, you're going through the entire Star Destroyer trying to escape back to Batuu, encountering AT-ATs, probe droids, Kylo Ren, and so much more. This ride not only uses trackless dark ride vehicles to get you through the experience, but it also contains simulator platforms and a drop track. This ride really has a bunch of different features and is a combination of a lot of different kind of thrill rides and creates, if not the greatest theme park attraction since the Amazing Adventures of Spider-Man at Islands of Adventure down the road. By the time all that was said and done, we needed to refuel, so we ended up at the ABC Commissary, which started off a little rocky as this was the only restaurant all trip I had been asked to leave a stroller outside. Again, inconsistencies between the parks and places. Aside from the hiccup, we got to eat, and it wasn't that bad. I got the shrimp tacos. They're my personal recommendation. It was nice, it was different, and it kind of hit the spot. We had enough time for 2 more rides before we saw Fantasmic, so we did Mickey and Minnie's Runaway Railway and the Tower of Terror one more time. Runaway Railway is a fun ride where you enter a Mickey cartoon. As expected, calamity ensues and you're on a wild adventure through the sea, rainforest, carnival, and streets, all trying to get back to a park just to have a picnic with Mickey and Minnie. Nothing can stop us now. And then, of course, we hit up the Tower of Terror one more time, and something about the drop at night when you could barely see out the windows when they open adds a whole nother level to this ride. Seriously, my favorite drop tower. Of course, a day at Studios is not complete without Fantasmic, a nighttime spectacular where Sorcerer Mickey takes on the Disney villains in a battle of good versus evil for his dreams. As of the time of this writing, this is the best night show at Disney. The music, pyro, and story. It blends wonderfully to create an amazing experience. Even after a rougher day at the park, this show reminded us why we like this park and redeemed some of those inconsistencies from earlier. We ended up actually changing this day to the Studios Day versus Animal Kingdom because we wanted to see Fantasmic. That's how good of a show this is, and why everyone freaked the heck out when they finally gave us a return date. Overall, while Disney's Hollywood Studios may not be the park I remember loving in my youth, it's still a fun-filled day living out the movies instead of learning how they were made. It still has some of the best thrill rides in all of Walt Disney World. The Tower of Terror, Rise of the Resistance, and Rock and Roller Coaster starring Aerosmith are an epic trio. It could still use some work, more A through D ticket attractions to help spread out those lines. I'd like to think this is possible eventually, but with Disney, you really just never know anymore. Well, that's going to do it for this episode. How do you feel about this park? Was it better when it was the Disney MGM Studios? Or do you like it better as Disney's Hollywood Studios? Let us know in the comments below. And as always, thank you all for watching, and we'll see you in the parks.